Thanks, everyone, for tuning in to this review and discussion of Stardom Dream Queendom 2024. At Stardom's final big show of the year, the protectors of Stardom did battle with the agents of hate. The crowd was taken through nearly the full spectrum of primary emotions, including utter confusion, overwhelming joy, and intense anger. This was the night that a masked kid and a dark queen both realized their destinies. Let's take a page out of Stardom's book and close out the year the right way. Welcome, everyone, to the stream. I am String 6 Splash here for our live stream. Our special guest for tonight is Meerkat Ultra, who will be with us in a little bit. Meerkat Ultra is dealing with some technical issues at the moment, so those will get ironed out and we will bring Meerkat aboard. But for the time being, we need to talk about Stardom Dream Queendom 2024. It does, in fact, all come down to this. This is the show that has closed a number of doors in terms of plot lines, in terms of rivalries and feuds, in terms of title chases. But it is also a show that has surprisingly left some doors open at the same time. So there are a number of subtopics, there are a number of directions that the conversation can go, and a number of rabbit holes that we may in fact fall into, especially when we bring in our guest for today. So what we're going to talk about first, before we discuss the show itself, is a little bit of contextual information about last year's Stardom Dream Queendom, because there is a serious difference between 2023's Dream Queendom and this year's. So let's take a look at a little bit of that. The main thing that I want to bring up is the fact that there were very, very, very noticeable omissions or absences from last year's Stardom Dream Queendom, those being both Tam Nakano and Natsupoi, who were out in 2023 with injury and were unable to compete inside of the ring. As we can see with this year, both of these returning wrestlers ended up being the champions, the defending champions of both the headline, the main event, and the co-main event. And we are going to be getting into absolutely heavy spoilers for Stardom Dream Queendom. We are going to talk about title changes. We are going to talk about where everyone is in the fallout of this monumental show. Now, last year, there had to be essentially a vacated title, and Maika versus Suzuki was our main event. This was definitely not what Stardom planned. This is not what they intended to have happen, but it is still almost like making lemonade out of lemons, because this rivalry really carried a lot of the tail end of Stardom's 2023. We also had a white belt title match, which was, strangely enough, the third one-on-one match between, at the time, champion Mirai and challenger Saori Anou. We had a New Japan Women's Strong title match between Julia and Megan Bayne, and we had a Goddess of Stardom title match between Aphrodite and Oedo Tai at the time, the team of XL. Funny to see that Momo Watanabe's position on last year's card did not really change. She still ended up in a Goddess of Stardom title match for this year's card, and she at least started out as a champion during Queendom's match for 2024. But her future and her status in the company is a big talking point and might be something we end up revisiting as we go along. So to just let you know, what we're going to be doing for tonight is not necessarily talking about absolutely everything with Stardom Dream Queendom. We're not going to go front to back everything that happened, every single match. We are going to focus on talking about the title matches. So we're also going to start in reverse order. So we're going to start with the main event of Stardom Dream Queendom 2024. Now, before we do that, I think I have just overheard the sound of someone jumping into the stream. So we're going to try and bring them in and see how this goes. And Meerkat Ultra may or may not be continuing to address some of the technical difficulties. But in the meantime, we're going to discuss the biggest things that have happened at the event. Hello.
So, can you hear me?
Yes.
How's this sound, by the way?
Pretty good. Welcome.
Okay. I can't hear it at the moment. I can only hear you speaking, so it's kind of weird.
Okay.
I broke my mic.
Pretty awkward.
Yeah, I broke my mic. Unfortunately, it kind of just dropped.
Oh,
I didn't. Not my mic, but the amp that it connects to. I bought like the cheapest one I can get because I just want. I don't know. It worked, and I broke it. So so I got to see if I can fix it, or I'll just get another one, I guess. But unfortunately, yeah, that's just how it looks right now. Let me get my camera going here. 1 second.
Sure.
There we go.
All right. Well, welcome to the stream, Meerkat Ultra. I guess we have a little bit of an idea of how your day's going so far, but other than that, how is your day going so far?
Yeah, that's fine otherwise.
Okay. So
it happens. That stuff happens all the time.
Yeah.
Issues.
No, it sounds pretty good. It's just if you can't hear yourself, it does make it a little strange. So just to get you caught up a little bit, I've just let everybody know that we're going to talk about the main title matches. There were 3 title matches here at Dream Queendom. We're going to kind of go from the biggest of the big and scale back, and then we'll focus on things. We also have some sort of viewer interaction parts where we can get into Q&A and things like that. But as far as I know, it sounds like you haven't had a chance to check out the event yourself. So if at any point if something sounds like super unclear because there were some confusing, strange things that happened, let me know and I'll try and make sure the waters aren't super muddy. But we'll kind of walk through it and see how we're doing.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, I didn't see the show live, but I just a lot of the spoilers came into because that's just how it works these days. And you can't avoid them, but so I just let it happen, and I kind of see what happens. I didn't see every single thing that happened, so there'll be a lot of things I didn't know, but like in the match, but otherwise I kind of know what happened, which is fine, no big deal.
Cool. Well, I'll try and fill in the blanks where I can.
Yeah, absolutely.
There was just a full spectrum of things to talk about. So we should definitely get started with that. We are going to go straight into the main event of Stardom Dream Queendom 2024 for the World of Stardom title. The top kawaii of the cosmos attempted to defend her belt against the Phoenix Queen, Saya Kamitani. Cosmic Angels versus H.A.T.E, the protector of Stardom versus an agent of H.A.T.E. And some of the most notable things as the match didn't even get started, but as the wrestlers entered the ring, is that this was a very grim visage of Saya Kamitani. She remained masked and shrouded in her feather cloak for the duration of not only her entrance, but also of the belt presentation and photography segment, and also for her announcing as the competitor and as the challenger. Little strands of red in her hair, but other than that, a pitch black presentation for her. And on the other side of things, Tam Nakano herself, who we had seen get new gear in the finals of the 5-star GP, formerly had streaks of black in her uniform, was now more of a pure white, a more divine, a more benevolent presentation for her. So they were absolutely looking at this as a tale of good versus evil, if we want to be very, very obtuse about things. This match surprised me because we had a sold-out crowd at Ryogoku, and the majority of them seemed to be behind Tam Nakano. Even as the starting bell rang, we had Tam chants that seemed to ring out and overwhelm the Kamitani chants. And this match featured a lot of creative moments. There were some bumps in the Tam road, some coordination hiccups, but nothing too major, nothing that they could not recover from. They showed a lot of professionalism, and the entirety of Stardom showed a lot of professionalism at this show by being able to recover from unexpected moments. Now, I'm just going to talk briefly about the biggest spots in the match, we had a bit of a callback to Kagetsu, in that Tam Nakano was hoisted up by a metallic chain, and she was basically hanging from it. This was very, very like picturesque, photogenic type of moment. And it was a very good visual setup, but also a good logistical setup to get Tam and Saya in the position near this entrance pathway for Saya to make a monumental splash. Obviously, she is doing another callback to her former injury that took place. And it was just a reversal of Tam Nakano's moment from the World Climax match of 2022. Tam being the high-flying daredevil, now reversed and sort of flipped around for Saya Kamitani to show the first moments of insanity, which only ramped up and amplified from there. As they eventually finally got back to the ring, we begin to play up the heightened sort of climactic and monumental finale to the match as we get to the final few minutes, in which I was very, very closely watching for any sort of shenanigans that could come about. I was watching what the other members of H.A.T.E ringside were doing. I was watching Sayaka Kurara, and Sayaka was very, very active on the side of the ring, running this way and that. She was almost always in camera for the last few minutes, but it was a bit of a red herring, actually, because what ended up happening is Saya Kamitani herself teased an attempt at performing the Phoenix Splash. Once again, there were many callbacks to their history, to Saya's history, to Saya's darkest moments, and she began climbing up the ropes as the crowd was gasping and audibly reacting to this, and the tension was building up. Tam Nakano was able to disrupt this attempt, and she got up to the second rope and suplexed Saya from that position, and they both collapsed to the floor. Saya ended up in a semi-prone position where she just simply stopped moving. She was frozen in place, and this was very, very eerily reminiscent of her injury from 2023. This was a total sort of presentation here. We had Daichi checking on her, getting Tam to go into a corner and cease any of the hostilities. We had the doctor come into the picture. The crowd was pretty quiet and pretty patient with this, as it seemed like Saya was just trying to get her bearings. And in a flash, Saya snaps into action, shoves the doctor out of the way, shoves Daichi out of the way, shocks Tam, who had been lulled into this state of not just pity, but human concern and compassion, maybe Tam having flashbacks to their history, and letting her guard all the way down, becoming completely enveloped in sympathy for Saya. And as she was caught off guard, Saya blitzes her with a combination of moves, including hitting Tam Nakano with her own violet screwdriver before picking up Tam, spinning her in a spinning variation of the Star Crusher. And with that, in a fit of maniacal laughter, Saya Kamitani, not only, to quote Meerkat, deceives all of us, all of the officials in Stardom and Tam herself, but claims the red belt title, and Tam Nakano loses the World of Stardom Championship. The Phoenix Queen rises to hover over all of Stardom. Now, we've talked a little bit about this show beforehand. We've talked about Saya Kamitani at length. You obviously have done a ton of research into this character, into the career journey of Saya, and you have voiced yourself that if you had your druthers, you would prefer to see a Saya Kamitani red belt title win. Someone at Stardom seems to agree with you, Meerkat. That is what we have gotten. How do you feel about the idea of Saya being at the top of the company, and what do you expect will happen next?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to see it because I thought it would be, fresh and just a little personally connected to it because it's kind of cool to see her like that. And um, but I think it's just the right time as well for especially for the red belt. It's the right time for it to move. I personally didn't think it would happen because I don't know. I'm just cynical wrestling fan, just kind of used to it of things not going the way they're supposed to go, which is not always the case for like Stardom or like other places. But yeah, I was just had like cynical wrestling fan in me, I guess. Didn't think they would go that way. Or plus also Tam's story as well would have fit in defeating Kamitani anyway. So like I wouldn't have been surprised if I saw Tam win as well. So all I really wanted at the end of the day, and I'll find out when I watch the event finally, is I just wanted a great match. Basically, it's a really good classic end of the year match is what I was really wanting, with some really good performances from both. And from what I've heard and from the little that I have seen just on Twitter, I'm not going to judge the match based on that, but from the little that I've seen though, I see some nice faces. I see some good expressions and interesting stories, but I have to see the match and then I'll be excited for it. But it's cool. I'm excited.
Yeah, very cool. Speaking of facial expressions, dramatic performances, there were so many of those and so many great, just gut wrenching, emotional performances from people on this card, but also a lot of really good matches. There are some moments that may end up being somewhat iconic with Stardom Dream Queendom. This is one, for instance, and you mentioned having sort of a preconception that Stardom might go the totally predictable route and play things kind of just straight down the middle. They had previewed this entire show with the concept that this is going to be when the protectors of Stardom, or the faces of the company, ultimately move forward and slay all the dragons of hate and overcome all of the all of the bad guys. But the actual results of the show were quite varied. We had some of those storybook happy ending moments, but we had just as many very sort of heartbreaking or tragic or almost anger inducing moments. And I think Saya really made a bold choice to get us to a place where she is fully committing to being the nastiest, most just arrogant heel possible. And this is something that I was worried she would not be able to do, which is to fully commit to a variation of this character that is clear to the fans, that is clear to the storytelling within the matches and leading up to other matches, and doesn't go one way or the other, back and forth between different types of or different levels of villainy. This is as rotten as it gets. Saya not only tricks everyone and lulls Tam into this very vulnerable state and capitalizes and takes the belt from Tam. She drives Tam to an absolutely emotional low point, maybe one of the saddest states we have seen Nakano in quite some time. And then she has the arrogance to demand that Tam Nakano gets back into the ring and puts the belt around her waist, all while Saya is mocking her. This what took several minutes. It took a long time for Tam to even have the strength to get back into the ring because she was so heartbroken and so crestfallen. And so Saya has really drawn a line, not only in defining this character as being more intelligent than even the intelligent monster Natsuko Tora, but more vile than almost anything we've seen in a good long while. This is a brand of heel wrestling that absolutely gets people thinking about what can happen in 2025. As Saya not only now has the potential to deceive, once again, to use a term that you have been using for years, but to also manipulate, to pull at people's heartstrings and stab people in the back, slice people's throats, take their belts, and go laughing down the road as she gets to her next victim. So with that being said, we do need to start thinking about 2025, the future of Saya Kamitani, the future of the faction known as H.A.T.E, and the future of the title picture. Who is going to try and show up and challenge this Phoenix Queen who has become more dangerous and more deceptive than ever? And I'm curious, do you have any names that come to mind or anyone that you're interested in seeing cross paths with her?
At this point, I think she can cross paths with basically anyone. She's she's new to the world title like defense scene, which is a different type of style, anyways, different type of match quality that she has to engage with, and typically more time as well. So it's just she has like a fresh face of opponents to face. Obviously, Maika is a big one because she still has a lot of unfinished business with Maika, hasn't defeated her. And then there's going to be like just other people who have beaten her before, you know, like Conan has beaten her. She has a shot. You know, May Sarah beat beat Kamitani for the high speed. You know, that'd be random, but why not? You know, but I like to see it. You know, Natsupoi would be great because she just recently lost her white belt and she would be due to be pushed on into the next phase, which I would like to see anyways. Actually, that's what I want to see the most. Actually, never mind. That's what I want to see. I want to see Poi face her soon because that'd be great. That'd be a great match.
Yeah, very good choice. Natsupoi or Saori Anou already have built-in reason to want to go after Kamitani. They are from Cosmic Angels alongside Tam Nakano. So that can line up very, very easily. And the last thing I want to bring up about this match is, once again, the specter or the possible plot line of continuing to involve Sayaka Kurara in this trifecta. Sayaka was ringside for this.
Yeah.
She was very prominently featured, at least to the extent that they made sure she was always somewhere in frame, in camera. It's just to remind us that Saya Kamitani still has an interest in this person. And now that Tam has lost her belt, the only thing she has left to hold on to is potentially Sayaka Kurara. So we will stick around and see how that's going. Definitely a low point in Tam Nakano's career, but what I think is the kind of partially the point of the Tam Road, especially Tam Road Chapter 2, is that what tends to happen is that Tam does get pulled to these very low narrative points prior to her finding a way to almost resurrect like a phoenix, to come back around and get huge career-defining victories. So that's something I think they're deliberately doing. This is obviously a story that is not yet over. It's merely allowing 2025 to be the next chapter of this kind of saga. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and talk about a bit of a brighter moment. In fact, a really, really, really high point in the show, the highest of highs, and just a match that I could not say enough good things about. So let's go ahead and pivot over. We also had the Wonder of Stardom title match, which took place between the champion Natsupoi of Cosmic Angels and Starlight Kid, now of Neo Genesis, challenging for the white belt once again. This match was so fraught, and I mean that in a good way, with not only emotions, not only in-ring storytelling, not only an absolutely on-fire crowd that was hanging on every near fall, every moment, every callback to something from the past, but reached an absolute, almost euphoric or climactic state of joy for the result of this match, which was that Starlight Kid, who has devoted her entire career to this character, has devoted so much heartache, so much struggle to trying to achieve a higher status, to become a true superstar, to become the white belt champion, has finally reached that point. And this just doesn't get more overwhelming in terms of the emotions. Seeing everything that happens after this match, knowing that it is Natsupoi to be the one to do the honor of having this fantastic match and passing the torch to Starlight Kid, and thinking about what can be next for both wrestlers, but really for the white belt picture in general, is just, again, I can't say enough good things about this. We could talk about the match specifics. I'll just throw a few things out there. They were teasing and previewing and building up in the preview matches the notion that either competitor could attack the vulnerable limbs of their opponents. Of course, Starlight Kid historically has what was called the Black Tiger leg killer, and Natsupoi had variations of the armbar submission. And that was the big story of all of their preview matches coming into this. So we knew that was going to play a role. But how it played a role, I thought, was more creative and more compelling than just going through the motions of them attacking each other's limbs and trying to get submissions. There was that did happen, but they also started right off the bat. If you had never seen any of those preview matches, you would learn and understand the story they were telling. So it started with a lockup sequence that quickly sort of escalated and finally terminated in both competitors kind of having each other wrapped up and trapped, with Natsupoi trapping the arm of Starlight Kid trapping the leg of Natsupoi. As I said, this did not only evolve and extend into the concept of trying to get submissions, but it informed it informed a number of the attempted moves that happened and the reason that certain moves were countered or certain moves appeared in the first place. So this was fully optimizing the amount of storytelling that you could get out of a basic concept in a match. Now, I got to talk about a moment that I think has almost like a dozen different separate reasons to be impressed, but it all unfolded in the span of like 5 to 10 seconds, which was when Starlight Kid ran up to the top rope as Natsupoi was attempting yet another one of her, I believe it's called the Fairy Real Gift, sort of cartwheel spin finishers. Starlight Kid had to stop that from happening because she had already barely survived one or two of those. She gets up to the top rope. She sets up Natsupoi for the Eternal Foe. This is a move that Starlight Kid reserves pretty much only for Natsupoi, Azumi. Maybe there's one other person out there, but this is a very, very, very rare move in Starlight Kid's arsenal. And they are absolutely on a tightrope, almost literally, or maybe literally, in that they begin to lose their balance. And they have to either commit to this move or try to stabilize their balance. And in a split second, they commit to the move. They perform the move. The crowd pops like crazy for this move. Natsupoi sells the hell out of it as if she is completely dazed and drops to the mat. And Daichi, in perfect timing, begins to count the pinfall. And in a perfect counter beat, or going between the beats, Natsupoi kicks the hell out at 1, which drives the crowd even crazier than ever before. I should say that the electricity of the crowd was completely at its apex for this match. Multiple SLK chants throughout the entirety of the match. Just a fever pitch from thousands of people in attendance at Stardom Dream Queendom. That was the beginning of the end for Natsupoi, as Starlight Kid was able to chain a couple of other moves. And in pretty much the most epic 3 count, Daichi leaps what seemed like 20 feet in the air, lands to the mat, and begins the 3 count, and ushers in the beginning of what we'll call the White Tiger Reign, because this is what Starlight Kid called herself at the end of this match, as her entire ring attire was sheer white. Just a very beautiful look and a very fitting look for a moment in her career that I don't think any of us are going to forget. She certainly will not forget. And it couldn't have involved a better champion in Natsupoi to do this honor. And I mean, it just is something that's going to be in my memory for a good long while. So you and I have talked about Stardom Dream Queendom ahead of time, and I believe we both predicted that Starlight Kid would win this belt. Now that she is in the driver's seat, what are you hoping for from this reign, and what do you think's next for her?
Yeah, so right away, I think it's I mean, I think I knew it was her time, just because I didn't think they would like give her 2 white belt matches in one entire year and fail. But also, like, her entire career in regards to winning championships, she is usually gets a lot of opportunities and doesn't really get it. Like, she had like 11 opportunities, I think, for the high speed. This is like her 5th opportunity for this to finally get. So she has a lot of struggle in her arc as a character. And what I found interesting with the color scheme, other than obviously matching the whiteness of the white belt, obviously, and the brightness of it, is that it's kind of just like full circle along the ways in regards to just how she went from dark and started introducing more and more color, and now here she is, pure white again. So even though her character didn't really like shift all that much, because that's not the point, though, it just seems like symbolically and metaphorically, she kind of just found her way back to the light a bit, and she was rewarded with it with the white belt, which is great because that's what the wonder of Stardom is supposed to be anyway. It's supposed to be the emotions of the wrestlers, the emotions of Stardom, to fight in the to fuel the fighting spirit. So I'm going to be very pleased to see that match because those two always wrestle really well, and I can't wait to see it. In terms of who she faces, I don't know, actually, anybody, actually, again, because this is a whole new territory where she can have great matches with anybody, you know, depending on what happens with Azumi, they can run that back. Actually, I mean, I don't want to disappoint Azumi fans. I don't think she's winning at Wrestle Kingdom just because it's Wrestle Kingdom. I don't see them getting more than 9 minutes, so I just don't see it happening. And that's just the reality. It's an undercard match, so I just don't see it happening. So I think Azumi, running with Azumi for the Wonder would be great. And a bunch of other people as well. You know, Soriano as well. In fact, she needs revenge on Soriano as well for losing to her twice. I'd like to see her face Momo. You know, that'd be great. That'd be a fun match. You know, so.
Yeah, like I indicated earlier, the best part of this is that there are so many options and so many pathways. And when you talk about a certain wrestler entering the picture, now we have enough story depth and we have enough history where it'll make sense for a lot of these people to fit in, just depending on how they want to play this out and how they want to schedule things and structure things. I have 3 names that I think most directly work for Starlight Kid at this point in time. One of them is actually Rena, because there was some kind of, can't remember if it was a triple threat or a fatal 4-way that involved Natsupoi and Starlight Kid. It was kind of like a preview match for the white belt, but Rena was very strongly showcased, and she literally walked in between Natsupoi and Kid and broke up their sort of face off to just remind people that she's always around and that she has a lot of prestige and momentum that she can work with. So that's one person. I agree. Not too far away from Rena is also Hanan, who is last year's Cinderella winner. She challenged Saori Anou for the white belt as well, and she has voiced a lot of interest in challenging again. And then lastly, what's that?
Oh, lots of strong growth. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no worries. And then lastly, the person that may in fact be the end game for Starlight Kid's reign, and I almost hate to even project this far out there because I'm still in the state of wanting to celebrate this win, but because we're just speculating and talking about conjecture, the person that I think might be the final the final notch on the belt of this story, or the final boss. I guess this is backwards because Starlight Kid should be the final boss, but the final challenger, Hazuki of Stars, the person who was driven temporarily insane by Starlight Kid. Hazuki has bounced back from a state of utter maybe depression or paralysis upon not being able to secure the white belt or take it from Natsupoi. And Starlight Kid literally slapped Hazuki out of it and made Hazuki into the wildest form we've yet seen. And Hazuki ended up ripping Starlight Kid's mask off. I don't think that story reached a satisfying conclusion. And because so many people, in a similar vein to how Starlight Kid has been an anticipated eventual champion, so many people have been rooting for Hazuki to get her spotlight. So I don't know how long we will see Starlight Kid with the white belt. I sincerely hope that it will be a good long while. She absolutely deserves it. And we've never really seen, well, at least it's been a long time. I can't say never, but we haven't seen Starlight Kid so worked up and so moved and so out of control in terms of being overwhelmed by her emotions as we saw at Stardom Dream Queendom. So the moment itself was absolutely worth it. And I do hope that we get a reign that is suitable to make that moment continue to register in our memories fondly. So those are some people. The thing with the white belt title is that the contenders list, or if we were looking at it like it was a division, the division is so congested with so many possible people that we could probably do a whole show about, you know, who we would like to see or who makes sense. But any final thoughts on Starlight Kid or any of the other white belt competitors before we move on?
Yeah, I think you covered it well. Yeah, I like to see Hatsuki as well, because it was essentially just a get her groove back moment in her little arc, and so yeah, I would like to see that as well. That'd be a good final opponent. It seems like a logical final opponent. We'll see what happens though.
Yeah, and I've seen some previous predictions about trying to track where the white belt could possibly go in Stardom, and one trajectory that we may see is someone mentioned a progression from Starlight Kid. Eventually, the belt changes hands and goes to Hazuki, and from there, eventually, the belt changes hands and goes to Hanan, Hazuki's faction mate within Stars. Now, speaking of Hanan, there was another title match here at Stardom Dream Queendom, which was the Goddess of Stardom title match between champions H.A.T.E Supreme, Thekla and Momo Watanabe versus Wing Gori, Hanan, and Saya Ida, the 2024 Goddess of Stardom Tag League winners and the former New Blood Tag champions. They lost those belts in July of this year. And both Hanan and Saya Ida have had amazing breakthrough moments pretty much throughout the year. Huge wins, huge pinfall wins for both wrestlers. We saw Saya Ida might have been the very last person to pin Utami Hayashishita in this company. One of the last people. That's a huge win for Saya Ida. She has also pinned, I believe she pinned Tam Nakano in the 5-Star Grand Prix. And Suzu Suzuki recently in the Goddess of Stardom Tag League. Those are big names. Those are red belt champions or challengers. And it is very much indicative of the fact that not only do the fans seem to be behind Saya Ida, but also the company at this point. Hanan herself has a pinfall victory over Tam Nakano. Through the Grand Prix, she racked up wins against not only Saya Kamitani, Suzu Suzuki, but also Syuri. Very, very, very high-ranking either captains or long-standing wrestlers within this promotion. And Wing Gori finally gets its biggest moment of them all. This was a big moment for Wing Gori. This was an intriguing moment for Momo Watanabe, but I would actually argue this was a pretty damning or low point for Thekla, because Thekla not only ended up taking the pin in this match, but there were two separate other visual pins in which the referee was out of commission and not able to make the count. But Hanan basically had Thekla beat, and then she rolled her up again, and she had her beat again, and then she finally did actually beat her, officially beat her, making Wing Gori the current Goddess of Stardom Tag Champions. Now, I can talk a little bit about the details of the match, but we don't necessarily need to. If we end up getting into more detail, we can. It was a good match, and there are some things I enjoyed about it. But as far as this being sort of the final exclamation point on the Goddess of Stardom Tag League journey and the Goddess of Stardom division, how do you like the idea of Wing Gori taking us into 2025? And do you think they can keep the level of competition that we saw throughout a big chunk of this year when we had Crazy Star, FWC, Aphrodite, and so many talented people populating this division? Do you think they can live up to that and keep the belts looking strong?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah, definitely. I'm so happy for the little green gorilla girl finally gets her due title. Really, it's really awesome. Actually, I'm really happy for Saida to finally get like to hold a major title like that. And great for Hanan as well. And I'm excited to see more. Like Saida's put on a ton of work into her not just her body and physicality, but just her work in general as well. Like her finishing move is that she has that little muscle buster variation thing that she does is I forget the name of it, but she hits it so well now. Like when she first started doing it, it was a little awkward, but now it's just like, yeah, she's got it, and like everything about her is just great. And so is Hanan. Like she's had a ton of growth. So I'm just that's just great. That's great to see. I mean, like the goddess belts flip hands constantly. That's just a thing that happens. But and they kind of just placeholders for the wrestlers to do sometimes, but you do get some exciting matches every now, like every once in a while. So there will be some good, exciting matches from them, I believe.
Yeah, I have high hopes for this. I can already see from how this match played out and how a lot of their tag matches have played out, the potential that is now being tapped into. Now, for instance, this particular H.A.T.E Supreme match, a big chunk of the beginning of the match was Hanan working from underneath, trying to escape the absolute grinding and sort of cruel tactics of H.A.T.E. And she played the underdog role so well, as she has done many different times before. And finally getting that hot tag to Saya Ida in the match was a big moment. They clearly have a good sense of their chemistry together as a team, but also how to work opposite these various opponents, or specifically heels, because this saga of Gori trying to overcome H.A.T.E has been something I've been keeping my eye on, because I had a really strong feeling that this would culminate in something. And it still might, because during this match, Momo Watanabe attempted to strike one of the members of Gori with her bat, and she screwed that up, and she ended up hitting Thekla. So this is yet another mistake at the hands of Momo Watanabe that was costly. This is yet another, I guess we'll call it a failure point of Momo Watanabe to make H.A.T.E look strong, to make herself look like a champion. She has only been able to defend the Goddess of Stardom titles once before losing them. And other than that, she has been coming up short repeatedly this year in her attempts to depose any of the champions in Stardom, including the great ideal WGP match with Mayu Iwatani, or to secure the New Japan Strong title from Mercedes when she came to America. So my eyes are very, very closely watching Momo Watanabe to see what will become of her in terms of her standing within H.A.T.E, or perhaps a departure from H.A.T E, because you've indicated her potential to challenge for some belts, maybe the white belt, but she could go in a lot of different directions that I think might work well. Now, that being said, I do recall you indicating that you thought this heel turn and this roughly 3 years of Momo Watanabe being first in Oedo Tai, then being in H.A.T E, transforming into the Black Peach, has been a very good sort of amount of character growth for her. And I think you're onto something with her dropping a title here and not being able to elevate herself above the tag scene for quite a long time now. What do you have envisioned for her in 2025? Do you think she's going to remain stuck, or do you think this is a sign that there is something that will allow her to either evolve or level up in some way?
Well, she definitely needs it. Like I liked her turn because it just made her more violent and aggressive, and she fits that part, I think, and that's why I like it personally, and it brought more of that out of that. But she definitely does need to do some sort of change unless she wants to be in that role forever. And maybe take over the hate unit at one point. I don't know, but I want to see her fight for the red belt. I want to see her having main event bangers like she can, like I know she can. That's what I want, basically. I just want to see her do that. And if she gets her flowers, then great. That's what I want. But a lot of Momo fans are kind of used to not happening, but I would like to see it though. But in that regard, I just want to see her have bangers and put in situations where she can really, really shine. And yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, I'm like I said, I'm going to be keeping my eyes on this, with Saya Kamitani now being the most prominently featured member of the faction, and also Natsuko Tora having quite an interesting night as well, getting a pretty big win over Maika at All-Star Grand Queendom in the no disqualification match. What ends up happening in the hierarchy of this faction, or in the pecking order, and how the most prominent members of the faction regard the other members, is something that I hope will get some development, and I'm going to definitely just stay locked onto. With that being said, we can now progress to some highlights from Stardom Dream Queendom. Like I said, we're not going to talk about literally every match. We talked about some of the title matches. I want to put a spotlight on something and then we can get into some of the questions that I have for not only you, Meerkat, but also for the viewers, and some of the questions they have for us. So the thing I'm going to highlight, there are a lot of options, to be honest. I had a hard time picking something, but because it is kind of curious and we don't get to see this almost ever, I'm going to talk about Saori Anou versus Mika Iwata 5, the 5th installment of this ongoing series, this franchise that keeps getting sequels. And this match definitely, I don't want to say it exceeded my expectations, but it overperformed. If you were to tell me that Saori Anou was going to get involved in a series with someone and she was going to wrestle them 5 times, and all of the other kind of strange components that make up this saga, with the strange title changes and the rapid title recoveries, and sometimes they fought for 2 belts, sometimes they fought for only 1 belt, sometimes they fought in Stardom, sometimes they fought in Sendai Girls. It just kind of makes you scratch your head a little bit. But what has been the end result of this? And I remember you mentioning, the facial expressions of the wrestlers, the dramatic components that they add to these matches, and the way that sometimes their mic performances, their promos, or even their moments in the ring can be very cinematic or theatrical or very artful. And this is the thing that Saori Anou and Mika Iwata provide for each other that is incredibly strong. I remember even seeing them in the press conference leading up to this match and being really, really, really taken aback by how intense the emotions are, how they can play things with subtlety, how they can play them with force. And this is the one wrestler that we have found that has been able to break the mask of the indomitable girl, Saori Anou, that cold porcelain mask that does not usually show weakness, does not show emotion, does not show hesitation. All of those things have been fractured whenever Mika Iwata has entered the picture. And Saori is almost afraid to fight. She's almost afraid to get into the ring. She's afraid to stand across from this person. And she does it anyway. And she gets in there, and we learn that there's a reason she is so hesitant. There's a reason that she is so overwhelmed, is because Mika Iwata is a force of nature, and Mika Iwata has that supreme confidence, and she has the skills to back up the confidence. So this match, because of the fantastic crowd, because of the fantastic acting performances from both, got everybody worked up. The crowd did not too far into the match begin Saori chants, which we don't usually hear because Saori can be very cold and she can be very graceful and interesting to watch, but she doesn't necessarily get the venue to fire up and light up because she's not that high energy person. This time they were so behind her with the context of Mika Iwata's previous Stardom visits, firstly at the Conversion on June 22nd, but also in Korakuen Hall on July 4th for an absolutely underrated tag team match that occurred on July 4th between Saori Anou and Natsupoi versus Mika Iwata and Manami. Highly recommend that match for anybody who likes to learn about storytelling, the storylines going on in Stardom, and how deep the wrestlers can get when it comes to creating character arcs and showing the progression of a person's internal life and their internal struggle, not just the move sets, not just the reversals and the pin attempts and so forth. So this match had a lot to offer. They didn't overstay their welcome. In fact, the finish to this match came slightly sooner than I actually expected. And if this is the end of their rivalry, we kind of, to a degree, hope it is, or encourage them to cool this off for a bit. I think they landed on at a very good place, with Saori Anou getting a sly win, a variation of her pottering roll up, which involved a new sort of almost corkscrew twist to it, like a literal physical twist. I'm not explaining this very clearly, but it was a variant that caught Mika Iwata off guard. There were some tactics and there was some psychology involved in this match that resulted in Saori Anou being able to win. And this now leads to Saori Anou being a person who I think might be the primary challenger for the red belt. You mentioned her challenging for the white belt, which could definitely happen. because her and Starlight Kid have a very pronounced dichotomy now, with Starlight Kid being the first challenger to Saori's initial reign, and then the meeting they had at Korakuen Hall at the Grand Prix where they reached a time limit draw, and it indicated that Starlight Kid is creeping up closer and closer to being able to take Saori out of the picture. So how are you liking Saori as a potential challenger, maybe even for Saya Kamitani or Starlight Kid? And if this is not the last time we see Mika Iwata, because at some point, I think backstage, she said she would be back. Do you want her to do something specifically in Stardom, or would you prefer for her to maybe take some time away?
Yeah, you know what? Just let them wrestle forever. Why not? Yeah, wrestle until they annoy everyone, and they do like let this be the Fast and the Furious of Joshi wrestling. You know, it just never ends, and it just gets crazier and crazier, and eventually they're fighting crowds and outside and in DT and other places. You know, why not? Why not? Why not?
Just keep upping the ante.
Go to Ichigaya and wrestle in the Chocolate Square. That'd be amazing. But Saori is amazing. What I like about her is the two things. One, the pottery pin that she does is like one of my favorite moves in wrestling. It's just a beautiful freaking move, and she does it so well, like every single time. It's just like art, basically. But her in general, because she's so stoic, whenever she does make an expression, she always just like the best example would be like Clint Eastwood in film. You know, it's just like he's very stoic, has that very serious face, but when it comes time to make some emotion, it hits harder because you're just so used to like her not ever making a face. But she's very subtle in the ring in that regard. That's why I like her a lot. She has a lot of subtleties that I like to pay attention to when watching wrestling at times. But her against Kamitani would be amazing. I actually think I think that should be the move. Actually, I do agree with you in that, because I think they would just have just an absolute banger, and it'll be great if they go like a good plenty of time and just have a great main event match. Be fantastic.
Yeah, it was definitely starting to get hyped up as they were teasing tension between the two of them. They were kind of doing some stare downs and facing off. And in those multi-person tag matches, I think they exchanged pinfall victories over one another with surprise roll-ups. And it really got you thinking, this is a match that has not taken place in Stardom to my knowledge. And the two of them each bring a unique dynamic to their wrestling. And I'm not sure how that would clearly look in a big match, but I am very optimistic to see something like that. Now, with that being said, speaking of things we may or may not see, we're going to move on to a segment that will involve you, Meerkat, and to anybody watching. It looks like we got a decent turnout here. Thank you so much for checking out this live stream. Feel free to post in the chat what you think about these 3 questions coming up. This is to just indicate what you think might actually happen. We have obviously heavy spoilers with Dream Queendom. We have 3 new titles, new title champions to look at. The red belt champion now being Saya Kamitani, the white belt champion being Starlight Kid, and the Goddess of Stardom champions being Wing Gori, Saya Ida, and Hanan. So let's ask some questions about where Stardom's going in 2025. Some of them pertaining to the champions, but some of them a little more general. So here's our first one. Again, if you want to post your thoughts in chat, feel free. True or false? The current red belt reign, that is the reign of the Phoenix Queen, Saya Kamitani, newly crowned. This reign will last longer than Maika's did. And Maika's reign was 6 successful defenses. She, of course, got her belt last year, this time at Dream Queendom, and her reign ended in July. So Meerkat Ultra, you've been able to predict the entire career path of Saya Kamitani by calling her the deceiver. She only gets more and more like a deceiver as time goes on.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Really. I really want her to go like a black metal route. That would be just dope. Just do it. like go Danny Filth. Like she needs to discover Danny Filth. I don't think she's discovered Cradle of Filth yet.
Nice obscure reference, but I actually caught that reference.
Well, that comes later. You get into the new metal, you get into all the emo phase and all that stuff, and then your friend shows you, oh, not black metal. Cradle of Filth's not really black metal, but you get introduced to Danny Filth, and he's like, there we go. Sorry, what was I saying? True or false? Red Bang lasts longer than Maika's did. I think it would be that feels average. When Maika's reign was 6 and July, that feels average. So I want to say false. It'll last longer.
Okay. Yeah, this is one that's really hard for me to try and predict because the title reigns in general, whether we're talking about red belt, white belt, goddess belts, pretty much down the line, they haven't been that lengthy, with maybe one exception being the Future of Stardom title at the hands of in the possession of Rina. But other than that, they've seemed shorter. The various plot lines that we've seen have seemed shorter. The various brief rivalries have seemed shorter. But now that we're kind of starting this year with almost like looking at this year with fresh eyes, new champions, the villains really looking like they have teeth, like they can tear things up and they can do some damage. I have a feeling that maybe we'll play with this a little bit. So I don't really know. That's why I'm asking the question. I'm trying to get some insight from others. So let's move on to our next true or false question. Here it comes. True or false? 2025 will be the year that the Cinderella winner goes on to defeat the white belt champion. This is something that has not happened recently. There have been many years of the Cinderella winner, the tournament winner, going on to challenge but being unsuccessful. Do you think that trend will change in 2025?
No. I'll just say no. Why not? Why not? Because I didn't even know that. That doesn't seem like a vital fact to know. It's kind of interesting. I didn't know that. That's kind of a fun fact. That used to be the case with the 5-star winner. They just never win the red belt type of deal. It was more of an honor to win the tournament than it was to go on to win the belt afterwards. But they've changed their tone on that. I don't think so. I think they'll use the Cinderella to boost somebody who deserves to get that boost, and then it'll take them a while to reach the next level.
Interesting. Okay, so that already gets me wondering about who could win the Cinderella. I would not write off the chance of a back-to-back Hanan victory, but there are some other candidates for sure. And I should maybe correct myself. So let's see. This year, Hanan won the tournament, failed to dethrone Saori Anou. However, last year, in her second win, Mirai was able to become a Cinderella twice in a row, and she eventually did win with her challenge. It was just so weird because she delayed her challenge, and she was challenging Tam, who was a double champion, but she was only challenging for the white belt and not either the red belt or both. And so it just, I almost like escaped my brain because it broke my brain when it was happening. Yeah, but prior to that, Mirai did fail to defeat Saya Kamitani in 2022. And in 2021, Saya Kamitani failed to defeat Tam Nakano. That was her first attempt at dethroning Tam. She's clearly gotten better at it as time has gone along. But we will table that for now. Let's go ahead and look at our third and final true or false. Again, we're trying to figure out where Stardom is going in 2025. And this is an important question to be asking. True or false? More than one established faction, so any of the current factions in Stardom, will disappear in 2025. We lost some good ones this year. It's been a rough year for fans of Stardom, especially longer running fans of Stardom. And some of these factions are looking a little bit, I don't know, inactive, maybe we'll say, or kind of dormant. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I'll say so, because I can't even remember. I know Maika and Mina have one, but I don't even know what it is. I keep forgetting and at the moment of who else is a part of it, at least. I know they got Xena in that group. See, I don't remember. And Hanako, I think, right?
Xena, Hanako, Waka Tsukiyama.
Oh, they're champions
Hanako
now,
and Waka,
by the way.
yeah, just getting the new blood tag belts, and one of the newer rookies, Rion, is in that faction, but she has yet to really.
That's too many members. Yeah, they won't dissolve. Yeah, I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say no because I have no idea.
Okay, so you're thinking at most one, possibly none.
Probably none, because I can't think. I wouldn't know who they would do. I mean, and who they would even begin to dismantle. So yeah.
Yeah, this is a tough one because it was a very bold choice to dispatch Queen's Quest and Oedo Tai in the fashion that they did, and basically simultaneously and not in a formal way where it was like, okay, this match is going to disband them. They had a match that kind of disbanded them, and then they had some heel turns and character decisions that the characters were like, I'm willing to take this faction down so that we can be our like new iteration or whatever. I'm still so confused by that entire part of the year, but we're in a good place. And I think as time goes on and more of the story elements pile on and the history and the chronology gets more expansive, it's going to feel better and more natural. So I'm starting to simmer on some of these topics. Before we get into our Q&A, because we do have some pre-existing questions from folks, do you have anything else you wanted to hear about from this event? There was a very, very bizarre, almost non-match between Syuri and Konami. I'm not sure if you heard anything about it.
Yeah, I saw it on Twitter, and from what I understand, that was the full match, right? Whatever I saw on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they could have fit into the video clips.
That's what I meant. Yeah, so that's kind of surprising.
Yeah. Absolutely, and it took me multiple sort of watches, and it took a lot of sort of scrounging around to see what other people had to say about this to try and understand what had happened. So just seeing it one time, it looks like just about the most confusing and poorly thought out short like burst of events that don't connect to each other and don't really result in any conclusive or satisfying finale to this revenge story, especially at a sold out venue, thousands of people, the end of the year, a big spot for both wrestlers. So it seems like just the worst booking and writing that could have happened. Upon rewatching a lot of this, it does seem to actually be a very unfortunate accident that has taken place in which Syuri essentially blitzed Konami at the beginning of this match. She first threw a flying knee, she threw a head kick, and then as Konami was kind of dropped down towards the mat, Syuri threw essentially like a buzzsaw kick or another head kick. And that appears to be the one that connected way too strongly. And if you kind of study some of the clips, the way Konami sort of falls to the mat and is somewhat unresponsive or unable to get her body to work, to get her to get up from the 10 count. And if you look at how people are reacting outside of the ring, namely President Okada, who seems very, very confused and looking around, trying to get an angle on what's going on. Syuri moves in to try and continue her offense, but the referee pushes her away and everyone starts to realize what's happening. It becomes pretty clear that Konami's not going to beat the 10 count. And that's when even more hell breaks loose. All of H.A.T.E rushes the entire ring, shoves the ref into the corner, just begins attacking everything in sight, which effectively disqualifies Konami from this match. Okay. And
I can see what happened then.
There's a whole other slew of things with a brand new wrestler appearing, someone who's never wrestled in Stardom, shows up, wants to join God's Eye. That just added to the absolute fever dream that this was.
Okay.
And
okay, I kind of like it.
So yeah, I mean, there's a lot more I could say about it.
I kind of like
it. My takeaway is that this was not what they intended to have happen, and this was just a horrible instance of misfortune. And all I can really say is I hope Konami's going to be okay. I hope everyone can walk away from this and fully recover, and I hope they can recover whatever story they were intending to tell and sort of repackage it or move forward and just kind of keep it pushing in 2025. So that's what happened with that. Was there anything else, anything you saw online that you thought was cool, or anything any thoughts you have in the aftermath of this event?
So basically it was just a classic Joshi moment that happened between them, just a little bit too much, which that used to happen a lot. So, that's just that's crazy. I actually can't wait to see that. I can't wait to see that. Actually, it kind of makes it makes Syuri more of a legit badass though.
That was always the case.
Yeah, I do know the wrestler that came in to interrupt and wants to join God's Eye is also a legit martial artist and has like a lot of like experience in that. So I'm kind of curious to see where that goes. But other than that, no, I don't got anything else. Other than that, I did find a weird observation. It's not a weird observation. It's pretty obvious. But like Suzu Suzuki was like here in the finals last year, and here she was in the random multi-tag match. I thought that was like a pretty big fall off, and that's pretty unfortunate. I hope to see
Right.
more growth in that character because I mean I love Suzu. I think she's great. So we'll see what happens.
Maybe the largest stock drop or card position drop of this entire event is where Suzu Suzuki was in 2023 at the very top of the card at the main event to being and I don't mean anything by this, but just how the match played out, a fairly insignificant part of a multi-tag match in which she didn't have a lot of ring time, and it didn't build anything for her. It didn't set up some kind of rivalry or follow-up match for her. It was more a match that was about setting up Mayu Iwatani versus Azumi. So Suzu Suzuki, what happens with her in 2025 is extremely, extremely intriguing, including the question of does she even stick around in Stardom? Because if they are not progressing her trajectory in an upward direction, perhaps she will seek out the next steps of her career elsewhere. I don't know, but it is something to wonder about. So now that we've gotten all of this out of the way, Stardom Dream Queendom is, of course, very much in our recent memory. And there are many rabbit holes we could fall into. Let's go ahead and see what people are curious to hear about. So we're going to get into our Q&A section before we wrap things up. Firstly, I'm going to bring up some of the questions that have already been submitted. So thank you very much to everyone who has submitted questions ahead of time. And once again, thank you to everyone tuning in right now. Definitely appreciate you guys sticking around and joining the conversation. I will try my best to find some questions in the chat. If they are there, I will try to fish them out and hopefully we can address them. We do prefer to hear Stardom questions as that is the most relevant thing going on for this channel. And with Stardom Dream Queendom having just happened. So first question is from The Real Jamie 11. With Stardom's new rookies Yuria and Akira being already presented as career rivals, do you think one of them joins H.A.T.E to spite the other? So now this is a pretty hefty question because some of you out there might not even know what this is pertaining to. This is a very recent sort of development in Stardom. On December 24th, there were two rookies that were brought into Korakuen Hall to kick off the show, and they participated in I believe it was a 5-minute sparring session with Maika as the special guest referee. And one of these rookies, I believe these are the correct names. One of them is Yuria and one of them is Akira, but I don't know who's who. I do recall seeing this sparring match, and it was looking pretty good. It was getting pretty intense. They were showing some skill, and as the time limit elapsed and this match went to time, the rookies here were not interested in stopping the sparring session. They kept going at it, and particularly the rookie to the left of the screen with the blonde hair was very, very aggressive, very hostile, almost animalistic. She took this sparring session a bit personally, and she continued to press the attack. She had to be pulled off of her opponent. And as implied by this question, this set up already a little bit of drama or conflict or intrigue and a sense of unfinished business and a sense of things getting a little too heated a little too quickly. So to answer the question posed here, I could absolutely see one of them joining H.A.T.E, maybe not specifically to spite the other, but almost for a meta reason, which is that I can't remember the last time we saw a rookie enter the scene and quickly take on a villain persona. It's usually a typical pathway for the rookies in that they garner fan support because they're starting from the very, very, very bottom of the mountain and they can't get wins for the longest time. They can barely hurt anybody in the ring. They can drop kick people 5 times in a row and it doesn't do anything. I mean, all their stats are nerfed. They have no XP to speak of, and their hit points are super low. So to sort of buck that trend, I think it would be interesting for one of these wrestlers to start out as a heel and actually, instead of trying to level up and gain XP, taking the main quest, they start to try and glitch out the game and cheat and get the XP any which way they can. So I'm going to say yes. I don't have a lot to work with, but why not? Let's see one of them in H.A.T.E like almost right away. What do you have to say about this?
Yeah, sure. Why not? I have no idea who they are either. I didn't know who they were until you told me as well, because I just didn't see the sparring match. I don't know. I just didn't see it. So I didn't know.
Fair enough. Yeah. It's exactly the case. Like if you didn't see this particular portion of the episode of the show, we'll say, then yeah, you wouldn't know about this plot or whatever they're trying to develop. And I saw it myself, and I still kind of don't exactly know what's going on. So that's the best we can say with that. Let's check out another question. And again, thank you for your questions, everyone, ahead of time. This one is actually directed at you specifically, Meerkat. Someone's been watching your stuff. I can't blame them, but they mentioned that you've done the Saki Kashima can draw video, and they want to know what 3 wrestlers in Stardom do you think should be Artist of Stardom champions? And the reason they're picking those belts is because they're basing this purely on their artistic ability. So taking the term Artist of Stardom literally.
Yeah, I mean,
so what do you think?
I mean, if this was like TJPW, that's 100% something like that would happen. They would just form a team of artists to just go for the artist team. That would be like, oh, I want to see that now. I want to see that now. No, actually, no. So to answer the question, it'd be Saki Kashima, obviously. We have May Sarah because she can draw as well. And she drew like a 7-year-old man who made her mad recently. And then also Shaka Carrara, because she is really good at drawing, actually. She's an artist. She's an oil painter. At least that was her background, was oil painting. So she's an artist. So all 3 of them. Do it.
That sounds perfect. If we could get some kind of collaboration where on the other side of the championship picture, we have Miyu Amasaki playing violin, Rana Yagami playing drums, and maybe Yuna Mizumori as the front woman or something.
Oh yeah,
that might be cool. So I don't know about other literal artists in Stardom, but that is quite a great and talented crop of people there. So very fun question. Definitely liked seeing that and got a kick out of it. Our final question from the prior submissions comes from Gyro Video Stream, who wants to know, did you find the ending, and by that, the winners of Dream Queendom, to be a surprise? And I'm just going to jump the gun and say, yes, I did, at least in a couple of instances. Maika versus Natsuko Tora was a surprise to me. They made the decision, and I think it is a compelling decision, to give Natsuko Tora an end of the year push, or maybe some kind of bump, some kind of level up in a very gritty, no disqualification match. I don't know if you saw some of these images, Meerkat. We're not going to get too graphic, but I'm going to show. Okay, well, I'm still just going to show one of the coolest parts of the match, which was where Maika brought a flat board with cut off beer cans from her Goddess Tag League run and used that as an improvised weapon, doing a superplex onto this thing. It looked painful as hell, but a very creative and a fun way to continue Maika's gimmick. The result of this match was that Natsuko Tora proved to have Maika more out of her element. Natsuko, and I think this is very justified and motivated, could very naturally beat Maika at a no disqualification match, because this is what Natsuko does. This is what she knows. This is what she thinks about before she goes to bed. She thinks about what she can use as a weapon and how she can make people feel pain. And really, really overmatch, like super duper duper overmatch Maika from the beginning of 2023 to now. So basically the entire time that the crowds have been able to cheer post lockdowns and quarantines and stuff, since they've been able to cheer, Maika has been way the hell over. Maika chants have been continuous, and they were very, very, very pronounced and resounding in this match. And Maika and Natsuko both proved to be badasses. But the surprising result to me was that Natsuko Tora kind of shut Maika down, didn't allow Maika to get that satisfying moment of revenge, that moment of redemption, that closing of the door or closing of the book on their red belt title sort of screw job, we'll say. And this makes Natsuko a pretty relevant threat for 2025 and someone that we have to look at almost side by side with Saya Kamitani in terms of who is going to have the most impact in the H.A.T.E faction and be the most dire opponent for some of these good guys, for the protectors of Stardom. Now, we did talk about Syuri versus Konami, but for you hearing any of the results, were there any that like stood out to you as like weird?
Not weird, but definitely the style of match that Maika, like I said, Maika and Natsuko decided to go in was a great choice, I think. And that's actually the match that I'm very excited to see that match. Like 100% really excited to see that match. I love matches when they go this way. You hardly get them in Stardom as well. And Maika's perfect for it. And of course, Natsuko's perfect for it as well. I think Natsuko Tora needed this win. She needed this big time, I think, to really rebuild, to just build up that I am a monster boss type villain. And I think that was great. So I can't wait to see it. From what I've seen, great. Yeah, I'm excited.
All right, very cool. So let's look into our chat here for a moment, and we'll pull a couple of things out. Are you still doing okay for time here for a couple questions?
Yeah, you're good.
All right, so let's start fishing around. I definitely see some in the chat, so I'm going to try and get to some of these. Let's just start with someone we've seen before in the live stream. So thanks for tuning in again. Let's see here. We got Paul Darwin returning, so thanks for tuning into the stream. Asking, who would y'all like to see from outside Stardom enter the 2025 5-star? This is a tough one to think far ahead for. Let's assume that Saya Kamitani is still in the red belt picture to some degree. Maybe Tam is in the red belt picture to some degree. And maybe also Maika still. Maybe Momo Watanabe as well. Shoot, I almost want to just pull the ripcord and just straight up say Unagi Sayaka comes back. Ooh. And does an extended run in the tournament to add some Cosmic Angels intrigue and add some fun to this. It's a pretty grim picture right now. If we're looking at the red belt picture, it's full of villainy. It's full of lies. It's full of malicious humiliation. So let's just add a goofy component. That's the first name that comes to mind. I'm sure there are many better names. But how about you? Maybe you can throw an actual good answer, and then I could come up with something.
Absolutely. Chihiro Hashimoto, Big Hash. Absolutely, 100%.
That would be insane.
She will steal every match. Every single match. That's it. Done.
You know what I'll say? Let's just get Mika Iwata in there, because what we've done is we've seen so many iterations of the Saori Anou match that I think it'll actually be quite compelling for us to see how Mika mixes up with other wrestlers. One of the things that is very fresh, like when we talked about the potential of Saya versus Saori Anou, is these new matchups and these new spins on a certain tournament pictures or title pictures. So I'll throw Mika Iwata in there for sure. So great question, really cool question. Let's see what else we got here.
Syuri would be good too. Sorry, go ahead.
That would be like that would be the most epic 5-star possible. So yes, I mean I agree with that. Enigma V4, thank you so much for tuning in as well, and thanks for all of your support in general. And check out Enigma V4. Check out the Talk for Glory series, please. So the question is, do you think Tomoka Inaba will ever leave God's Eye and join Neo Genesis? I think there's a decent chance of that, because they've teased it already. Neo Genesis, they're almost scouting or trying to like draft Tomoka Inaba because she fits their criteria, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
She's exactly in the age bracket that makes up their roster. The only thing I think is that like her style of character is almost like oil and water, or there's almost like this strange sort of shearing off from the Neo Genesis approach. Now, I think that might actually work though, because like when we threw Saki Kashima into God's Eye, that was, it was such a jarring thing, but in a fun way, because they are these very honorable, disciplined, martial arts trained, respectful people, and Saki Kashima is like the opposite of all of those things, and that works. It works so well. So you know what? Why not? Let's have Tomoka Inaba be sort of like the rigid, I'm going to do things in a presentable way, and I'm going to hold myself to a standard. And then Neo Genesis is just going to play around the whole time.
Oh yeah, I agree. She's a Zoomer. Just imagine the TikToks already. I'm not on TikTok, but I see them on Twitter every now and then. They do dances. I guess I don't know. They're Zoomers, but that'd be great. And plus, they already have like a skilled shoot fighter in God's Eye. You don't need Tomoka Inaba. You got Saki Kashima. I mean, you don't need. She's already as skilled as a fighter as you need. We don't need anybody else.
Yeah, you don't want the faction to be too terrifying. Like,
No,
I got to still be able to watch
terrifying.
the programming and not be hiding in the corner.
She's too good.
So, yeah, you bring up a good point. Are you okay? We'll do 2 more.
Yeah, go for it.
All right, so let's scrounge up a couple. Blood Money 47. Do you guys see Momo Watanabe and Natsuko Tora being ousted? I believe this is being ousted from H.A.T.E. And it's tough to call both of them being ousted. I have been looking at both of them as potential sort of exiles. And now that we have Natsuko in a strong position, it's even harder for me to make a choice on this. I'm going to say yes. I am going to absolutely say yes. I think what we're doing, especially with the Saya Kamitani finish at Dream Queendom, we didn't lean on Sayaka Kurara. We didn't lean on outsiders jumping into the ring. We didn't lean on cheating. That's debatable whether what Saya did was actually cheating or not. But we didn't lean on her getting help from other people to bail her out or to set a screen for her. And that's something that Natsuko has regularly done. Natsuko has regularly relied on the members of H.A.T.E. to help her get over. And Saya doesn't need any of that. I think they're deliberately drawing this distinction. The fact that Kurara didn't play a role, the fact that no one in H.A.T.E. needed to play a role, the fact that the Phoenix Queen was a one-woman like mafia that can deceive, can do the espionage, can do the trickery, and can take out the target, can make the hit. I think they're setting up the fact that Saya is a better leader than Natsuko ever was. And this is something that goes back at least as far as 2023 with Stardom Sunshine, the steel cage match between then Queen's Quest and then Oedo Tai. The story of that match was how Natsuko was sort of a failure as a leader for her faction mates. And Utami Hayashishita at the time was the strong leader that we knew she could be. And the dichotomy there was showing that Utami was always fated to guide Queen's Quest to win that match, and Natsuko was always doomed. And I think there's something almost like that in a sense between Saya and Natsuko. So I think Saya is going to take over the faction, and at some point she's going to bitterly screw Momo Watanabe, or just have Momo get jumped and kicked out, kind of like what happened to Starlight Kid. And that's going to potentially give us some nice, juicy storytelling with Momo trying to get back to Saya, because Momo has had a career in recent years that has been very giving. She has put Saya over in many of the big matches, and only this year did Momo turn around and get one over, pull a fast one on Saya at the conversion this year. So I think them having something that is a little bit different than what we've seen, but also a little bit familiar, can happen. Now, I don't know that they both get kicked out at the same time. That seems like a bit much, but over the course of next year, I could see both of these things happening for different reasons. How about you?
Okay, for what you said, I think Momo, it will probably have the highest possibility of being ousted. I don't see Natsuko Tora ever leaving that, just because I can't see her doing anything else until she retires. To be honest, I think that's just her legacy. Is she was inherited this Evo group, even though she rebranded the name, that wasn't like that. I don't think that changed that dynamic, and I don't think they're ever gonna I mean, that would be the biggest surprise in the world for me. If you want to surprise me the most of everything, then that would be what you do. You kick Natsuko Tora out, H.A.T.E. That would be the biggest surprise for me, because I just don't see it happening. Momo, I can see though. I can see Momo. In fact, it probably would be interesting for Momo.
Yeah, another thing that we didn't consider yet unless I didn't hear this. So forgive me if I just missed it. But there is definitely the chance of Saya just forming her own thing now that she's got the belt. Because this is what Maika did at the beginning of 2024 when she got her belt, is that she just decided, hey, I'm going to form something new. DDM is breaking up. Let's try something out. And so maybe Saya Kamitani goes that route, but I mean, Saya is pretty hateful at this point in time. So hard to say. Now, this last question that I found here, Meerkat, is actually directed towards you and some of your content creation. Are you cool with addressing that?
Yeah, okay.
All right, so let's pull this out. This is going to be our last one before we wrap up. Let me just reacquire it here. Okay, and this is from FoxCats317. What is Meerkat's inspiration for getting an English-speaking voice actress for the Sayaka Kurara video?
Oh yeah, okay, sure, yeah. So if you didn't know, I made anyone doesn't know, I made well, if anyone doesn't know, I make content for YouTube for Joshi Wrestling, and wrestling is kind of funny sometimes. And I don't normally talk like this. I actually have like this different style of voice. It's really hard to get into, and I can't hear myself, so I can't do it now. But either way, I digress. I made this video for Sayaka Kurara, and I just thought it would be funny to get an English, just get a female to do it. I don't know. That's legitimately it. I mean, they're like, I can go deeper, I guess, but I haven't gotten any like crazy reactions to it. So at the end of the day, it was just like something I wanted to do because I thought it'd be funny. I thought it'd be interesting, and I wanted to actually hear my script back to me. That was the one big thing, I guess you can say, meta-wise for my artistic needs. I wanted to hear a Meerkat video spoken back to me, and I learned a lot just in screenwriting in general, working with an actor. That's the most important thing, I would say. And I thought that was great, and I would like to do it again. I want to work with others as well and do more and expand the Ultra universe, I suppose, the Ultra branding, I guess. I haven't figured that out yet, so don't hold me to that.
Okay. So yeah, I think sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, so that's basically what I did. Yeah, that would be funny. I'll know in 6 months, and this is what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for like for 6 months when new people discover my content to just randomly get a comment in some video being like, "I thought you were female," or in that specific video, I'll get a comment being like, "Who's this female?" I'm still waiting for those 2 comments. So, anyways, thank you for that. Thank you for that comment.
Yeah, really fun question. That video is super fun, really well executed, and yeah, with your screenwriting background, it reminds me of almost like when people do table reads and they get actors together to read the material, so they can kind of see how it's being interpreted, how it's being performed, is it coming across on the page, and actually being able to be delivered from a human being. So I thought that was a creative effort from you. One of many creative efforts. And on that note, actually, let's go ahead and just wind the stream down. There are an endless number of topics and subtopics. I'm already thinking about content and future discussions based on the things happening, but it's so recent that I'm also still processing a lot of it and just getting over the many sort of feelings that were evoked by this show. But since we have you here, once again, thanks for jumping in and overcoming the technical problems.
Yeah,
definitely. I can hear you just fine. So don't worry about that. Like, even though you can't hear yourself, I can't even imagine what that's like right now. But can you please let people know where they can find you? And I'll just throw something up on the screen so that they can also see some of the links you got.
Well, there you go. Mina's sort of pointing to it. It's a YouTube at Meerkat Ultra, or you can find me on Twitter as well, Meerkat Ultra, and I post a lot. I got a video tomorrow if you want. I do got a video tomorrow on AJW's big, well, actually it's not AJW's big crossover event for the big Egg Wrestling Universe. It's the 10-hour show, one of the longest wrestling events. I think it is the longest wrestling event and the biggest women's wrestling event of all time. It happened in 1994. It's 35 minutes, and there's some a lot of fun editing in there. I had a lot of fun editing that. There's some really fun moments in there, and so I can't wait for that. And next year I'll be posting more and doing stuff. So just the usual, the usual. Anyways, thank you. I'm rambling.
You've had a really strong year. You mentioned releasing 120 plus videos, which is incredibly impressive, and absolutely looking forward to your 2025 Meerkat. Thank you everyone for being on the stream. You are here at String 6 Splash. stick around. There's plenty of stuff to check out. Please like, comment, and subscribe to anything that you find valuable. I do a series called Red Belt Radio. I've been trying out some other things as well. So you never know what will pop up on this channel covering Stardom. And there is a lot to cover still. So I'm glad to have everyone on board for this and looking forward to what is to come. With that being said, we are going to close out the year. Happy 2024 to everyone. Happy New Year, I guess I should be saying. I hope you enjoyed Dream Queendom. Hope you all enjoyed this discussion. Once again, thanks, Meerkat, and thanks everyone for watching.